کسایی بودن که کشور ما را میراث جنگ‌های ملی و بین‌المللی ساختن باشند.
نفر امنیت جای دیگه هم شدن خارج کنید.
سنسیتیوترین کسا بودن در جامعه که میخواستن که کشور ما را به حالت رساند یا باید محاکمه بین‌المللی و ملی شوند.
این شد ما با مجلس میگم که از مجلس خارج شود دیگه در مجلس داخل شده نمیتونه.
شما به کسی رای بدین که در قدم اول به زنان احترام قائل باشند.
از برای کمک آمده که به شما رای بدیم.
Hello, and welcome to Documenting Reality, hosted by the Documentary Channel. I'm your host, Fred Ruttman, and I'm here with Eva Mulvad, and she told me there was no way I could pronounce her name wrong, so I'm going with that. Eva, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate your time. And you're a pretty acclaimed documentary maker. Seems you've won a lot of awards and done some pretty stellar work.
Yeah, I've been around for almost 20 years doing my job in different parts of the world and different themes. But yeah, I've been doing films of more of a little of a political edge, and also films that has more of a human-driven interest. So yeah, some of them they have hit like the international circuit, and others have been more domestically here in Denmark, screened on national televisions, so on.
So you have a film on the Revitalized Documentary Channel, and this is about a young woman in Afghanistan who decides to take on the system. And it's a fascinating film. Do you want to tell us a little about it and how it came to be?
Yeah, I mean, now a lot of stuff has happened in Afghanistan, which makes it less prosperous. But when we went to Afghanistan to shoot this film, this was in 2005. A lot of people had a hope that things could change there, and I mean, it's a war-torn country. It's been in conflict for many years. But here, at that time, was an opening for hope. And we were following a young female politician. She was kind of famous in Afghanistan because she, in one of the meetings that they had there, kind of a law establishing meeting where a lot of people who had been part of the political system could come and discuss how they would build forward from that point in history. She stood up and she said, like, I don't want us to build on people in this room that has blood on their hands. And so she was very outspoken against what she calls warlords at that time from the Northern Alliance that had kind of not been the Taliban's, but also been part of the conflict. And she was very clearly telling them that they should not be part of the future in Afghanistan. And that was very brave, but also unexpected of a young woman like her. And she became very famous for that among a lot of people, normal people in Afghanistan, but also hated among a more conservative group that they were in power. So when I met her, she was actually hiding and not able to really just walk the streets. And she was running her operation, like she was running for the first free parliamentary election from a place down south, where she had like a setup of local people and 12 bodyguards, and she was like being protected heavily. So she could not really go out into the villages or towns to talk to people, but they came to her. She was also supporting a hospital and doing some local politics there, where she was doing a lot of social work. So people actually had a habit of seeking her office and seeking her organization for help. So in that location, we could actually describe a political campaign, but also a lot of the social issues there, and that area is like it's on close to the Iranian border, and then it's not a very, it's like a smaller city that it's not so, it at that time at least was not, there was not many people like foreigners or help organizations there, and definitely not a very strong social system to take care of people in need. So people just turned to those who took these things upon them. But I mean, we came to that area, which was pretty difficult because you had to, that it's not like you can just take a bus or drive by car there. You had to, we had to negotiate ourselves into some military planes that had like a destination there I think it was every Wednesday they came there. There was a base, an American base actually, and some Danish soldiers had a plane circling in that area. So we came on that plane, and we knew that we could go back again in a week from that day, because we didn't know exactly if we were able to make a film in that area, because it was very difficult to know anything about security and yeah, it was a kind of a dangerous place to be as a foreigner, not as local people they could actually handle, but it was close to the Taliban areas, and actually just when we came there was I think it was a British guy that was abducted and killed just outside of town, so it was difficult.
So remind me of the young lady's name again, please.
She's called Malalai Joya, and she's now actually I'm still in contact with her, of course, and she has had to escape because of these turning difficult times that Afghanistan are in now, and that Taliban is back in power. And she was lucky, but I mean, this situation, it was with the risk of her life. She couldn't stay there. I mean, she wouldn't be able to work, or maybe she would be killed. And now she's been accepted as a refugee in Spain, so she lives there. Also in a very difficult position. She doesn't, I mean, she's famous, but she doesn't have any economical support. She doesn't speak Spanish. She tries to help her country because she feels very like that she has a voice, and she wants to raise it, and she wants to support especially female politicians and other female leaders who take upon them to try and fight this change. But it's so difficult. So yeah,
I can't imagine. So how long did it take you to film this? Was this like
we were there, I think, for 5 weeks. We were in Afghanistan for 5 weeks, and we just stayed with her for the most of the time, because we found out that the best thing was to be inside of her security system and to be part of her organization. And we got a lot of great material from just people coming to her office, and a lot of the film is built upon like supporters coming to tell her that they are supporting her mission, or people coming to her office. We have one of the stories is about a young 13-year-old girl who's her family tries to seek help because she has to marry an older man, and they don't want this to happen, but they have had some conflict with him concerning money that they gave to his family, or so there's some social issues there, and we follow that case as well. So it's a mixture of politics and social insights into everyday life in Afghanistan.
خوش آمدی جان. سلام. استرسی نه دیگه. دست دیگه باز نکنی خب نه. دست خوار کلاغ کس باز نمیره. جاله خوب. خوش آمدی جان. نه که باز زیر فشاری ها.
امروز باز سرام آماده که یه مبروبو بوده که خوارم رو ما بوده سرام آماسا یک دوای میدم که دیگه نه.
خیلی باز گپ
تمامی که دیگه بگم فقط ماماش میشم خداده همه برام یک دنیا یک کارا بکنم جا تو گی کرده از یک بربی نکنم
نمیتونه هیچ غلط کرده نمیتونه نره گریه نکن جان رایله تو خب با جرأت دختر بودی تو خب گریه نمیکنی هیچ غلط کرده نمیتونه ما هم رایت هستیم در این حال حوصله کو روی خور از دست نتخوری رقم تو بیخیر روز برات لاغر میشه از بین میری من میفهم دلت درد داره تو گریه کنی خوب است مگم تو گپ خور بگو
ماما مرا کرده دختر براره میشیرینه رو 8 میلیون که کرده که بگم لی روز رسیده که شو رسی بله برام سالار گیری گوتاخت که میخواه خور به من دی مکاتیان نمیدون زن تا عجب تگیر کرد از یک مر میمینو که کرده که بگم لی بس عمله برام گو خوب مامان گناه باشت ما رسی بکن بعد از رسی باز خوش ما گفت میزن 3 میلیون چکار مینی بیدم لی رسی کردیم 8 میلیون هم خورده که رسی که تیشی ما اینجا عرض کردو چند لی پیش تو اومدو
یادم است
بیدم لی ما رفتو آخر گفته که خوب باش ما سکن مصار نویل خبر میدو کس یکم خدای پاک کس مداد ما نرسه
نه به داد شما میرسه جانم تو نکن کریسه که تو یک صفت انسانی خو نداره اگه میداشت خو حداقل همی که تو از نواسش کرده خورتر استی یکی امروز چند زن داره آدم تریاکیست تریاک فروش از خوی کل چیزا تو به من گفتی نی یادم است
آره آخر گفتی من نمایو میخواه خود که سیومی تو را میخواه بس دیگر نما سواد نداره این خود سواد داره من سنف 5 خاطر که تریاکا مری حساب کنه سلا دار تریاک دار مردکه لنگ دستی شل پای شل و مادی تو دختر برم دار خیلی خود بدبخت مینه.
So I guess 2005, 2006 is just when technology was taking off to make cameras smaller and batteries better and all that. You must have had to take like just a ton of equipment with you.
Yeah, I mean, we shot on it was a digital camera at that time, and we had that. We only had one camera, and at a point it was like it fell from the tripod and we had to fix it and it was there was no infrastructure around that kind of thing in that area, so we were just lucky it wasn't broken. But it's that area is a desert area and it's very hot, and batteries are just difficult to they don't operate the same level performance level as they do in a normal temperature, so we had technical issues. But I was shooting it with a British cinematographer called Sila Bose, and she was very good at I mean, it was a very beautiful area, so it wasn't like she had to invent a lot of things. But this kind of a thing that I'm also very occupied with is how to actually frame documentaries in a way that you feel you're there and you feel the beauty of the place. You can actually get into the emotions of the people we are filming, and not like in what at that time most of the war zone documentaries had a more rough style, a more like reportage kind of style where you're not so much into the more fiction style that I like to work in. So we talked a lot about how we could operate in this area, and also because the language was we didn't understand at all what was going on. So and a lot of the scenes that we shot, they were actually conversations between Malalai Joya, the politician, and people coming to her office. And then we worked with a fixer, a guy called Jamil, who actually helped us screen the people before they went into the office. They told us what their issues were and what they wanted to talk to her about. And at a point, we had enough of these people coming to say, we support you politically. And then we were looking for other kind of scenes. So we actually screened them before they went in. So we didn't just like stand there, shoot 1 hour with a conversation that we didn't really need anymore because we had great conversations already. So
is your, excuse me, is your general outlook on life, like try to see the beauty no matter what the ugliness around you is? Because it sounds like that's what you did with this film. You know, there's the ugliness of the war and the situation.
I mean, an ugly place can also be shot in a beautiful way. You can see the beauty of poverty, but I'm not like trying to sugarcoat anything. I think I'm just educated in cinema in a way, and I think documentary filmmakers can come from a lot of different angles. They can come from activism or journalism or other angles. But I come from a film school tradition where we are educated in cinema, so I'm more like interested in the language of the images and what they can tell, and maybe come a bit behind a lot of. I mean, even in this film, there's a lot of dialogue, but I'm always trying to see if I can find the character. Like you have a main character in a fiction film, and they become iconic in a way. And we were also working in this way with this film. So I'm often asking myself, what could be the main feeling here, and also trying to, because I mean, reality, it doesn't look like a film. Often it's a mess, and there's a lot of things happening, and you have to filter to find out what is good for your film. Which plot should you track on and try to gather as a full story? And that can be very difficult to filter in the right way when you are out there, because you don't really know what is going to grow and what's going to become a great, interesting storyline. But I was asking myself also, because I come from a Western country and I don't know the Afghan culture. So in a way, it's also a question of if a person like me can actually really tell a story to the Afghan people, because I don't know what they actually see, because they have so many different interpretations, because they can read the culture so refined. So I need to be more aware that I'm from a foreign culture, and so I was asking myself, how can I look upon this story from the perspective of a culture like mine? Because Denmark had troops in Afghanistan, and we were involved in the country. So I think it was important for us to understand more about the country and what was real life, everyday life there. Like, how is it? Can you walk on the streets? Can you go to school? Stuff like that. More soft themes. And what can we learn from this place? And I was very inspired by Malalai Joya and the bravery and the kind of, she became like a freedom hero in a way. And I thought that a main feeling in the film was that it was dangerous, of course, but also that she was brave, and that you can actually, in a country that is way more relaxed and maybe sometimes a bit not taking politics so seriously as they do in Afghanistan, because it doesn't feel like life and death in the same way. So it could be inspiring for people in our culture to see somebody who's actually really fighting for change and doing stuff that are brave and important for per generation and the generations to come.
Yeah, she was only 25, I believe, right?
Yeah, well, maybe she was that at that time. When we ended the film, she was probably 28.
Okay. So did her family have a history of standing up for things, or it's just like it was her time to shine and she took it?
Yeah, I think she came out of a very liberal family with a lot of brave people. I mean, one of her uncles was one of her bodyguards and involved in political organization, and she was raised in a way where she was sent to school and educated in a border, I think it was near Pakistan border area. So she had like a political schooling from her background. And I mean, Afghanistan is what we know about it is often the Taliban and their look upon their point of view upon the world. But if you're studying some of the older stories of the Afghan culture, they have a lot of female leaders and brave female characters in their stories from the older times. So it's not like something that didn't exist at all there.
I find this fascinating. I take an Uber, and you get to meet people from all over the world when you take an Uber. And I've met quite a few men from Afghanistan who've told me their versions of the country's history. And if what they said is true, that there's actually only about 25,000 Taliban fighters, it's amazing that, you know, Russia lost the war, whoever, whatever other country went in, lost the war, America had to pull out. Like, this is crazy how such a small faction could take over the country and impose their will.
Yeah, I cannot really explain why that is, but what I met when I was there was that we are in a country that has been at war for 25, 30 years at that point, and now even more. And everybody has a beef with each other because somebody was killed by somebody else. So maybe the Taliban is a small fraction of the country's. I mean, not everybody believes in them, but there's also other alliances, other groups that has worked in different ways in different parts of Afghanistan. So even if you believe in the same thing and want your country to go in the same direction, it can be very difficult for them to work together because they have conflicts. Somebody killed somebody else's uncle in the past, or that's one thing. The other thing is, for example, in the area where we were shooting this film, it's a very dry desert-like area, as I said, and there's some people who want to do agriculture there, and they run their farms. But then, what can actually pay for them to get the water from the ground and up to the fields is only production of puppets for drugs. So maybe you're not supporting the Taliban, but the Taliban is the only infrastructure that can provide your crops to get out into the foreign countries where you can get your pay for this only thing that can actually feed your family. So maybe it's true that there are not that many Taliban warriors. I don't really know exactly about that, but I know a lot of the infrastructure around where normal people or people are not, maybe not totally agreeing with their point of views, they depend on them anyways.
So how did you come across this story?
Well, it was this very brave thing that Malalai Joya did when she stood up in the so-called lawyer Jirka that we also show in the film. That she stands up and says that you have blood on your hands, you shouldn't be part of the future. That was a public recording, and it was public, and it was discussed a lot. So we raised money here in Denmark to do a film on female politicians in Afghanistan running for the first free election. And she was one of 3 or 4, I guess it was. We researched maybe that they could be the main character, or we could have more main characters. But it seemed that she was the most interesting because she was she was actually in a fight with the opponents. So it was very easy to see that she wanted something, and the more conservative powers wanted something else, and then she was like very outspoken in her way of talking about these things, which is good for cinema.
اسم من ملالای جویا از ولایت فراستم. البته به اجازه حاضرین محترم به نام خدا، به نام شهدای گلگون کفن رای آزادی وطن میخوایم چند لحظه صحبت کنم. من انتقاد مسئله تمام وطندارای ما که در اینجا حضور داره به ایست که چرا میمانند که مشروعیت و قانونیت بودن ایلوی جرگه زیر سوال بره. البته وجود او جنایتکارایی که کشور ما را به این حالت رساندن یا کسایی بودن که کشور ما را میراث جنگ‌های ملی و بین المللی ساختن. زنستیزترین کسا بودن در جامعه که میخواستند که کشور ما را به این حالت رساندن. یا باید محاکمه بین المللی و ملی شوند یا مردم ما را ببخشه، مردم پا برهنه افغان هرگز تاریخ را ببخشه.
So now that you're almost 20 years removed from that project. If you think back, is there a way you would have shot it any differently?
I think it turned out very successfully because she was very relatable, and it was
Mm-hmm.
very easy for the Western audience to to understand her. But she is also, in a way, speaking out our opinion upon the world. I mean, we agree with her very easily.
Mm-hmm.
I was very happy that this film also contained one scene where there's this older guy that I talked about that was about to marry a 13-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm.
That he comes to Malalai's office as well, and he explains to her his point of view in the world and why he needs to do this. It's not like he necessarily wants to marry this little girl, but that it's out of pride, and his family has now said publicly that he will marry her, so it will be like a loss of face for him to not
Mm-hmm.
go into this deal that was made. So I think the more complex we can do these kind of films, the more we can actually understand that the bad guy might also have his reason, and that we could also understand how their point of view is put together. And
Mm-hmm.
in that way, our understanding of the complexity can grow. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe if I had more time there, I would be able to build a more complex story. But I think we succeeded pretty well in doing so, and the film has been screened in many countries and has been like used in the discussion several places before they had to send their soldiers to Afghanistan. They've been screening this one and discussing this film because it actually brings an understanding of the culture there instead of it all being about the military and strategic things and these kind of or maybe about the Western position there. We
Mm-hmm.
actually going into the local villages and with the local people, trying to bring this understanding from a local perspective into the minds of the Western audience.
Mm-hmm. Not easy to do. Can we talk
Mm-hmm.
a little bit about one of the love stories that you did um, about the family that escapes from Iran?
Yes.
And that was uh, touching to me because I actually have a friend here who went through one of those voyages where they were, snuck out in the trunk of a car and, you know, 30 days in the desert and buckboard wagons and bribing this person and almost getting caught by that person. So those types of struggles resonate with me. So, do you want to tell
Yes.
a little bit about that story?
Yes, it's a story that we finished it in 2019. It's about a family. It's called Love Child, and
Mm-hmm.
it premiered in Toronto in TIFF,
Mm-hmm.
in the international selection of documentaries there. Um, it's a very likable couple, and they had an affair in Iran, but they were both married to other people. They couldn't get divorced, and then
Mm-hmm.
out of this affair came a biological child that the mother had to state was that the father was her husband, but it was actually her lover that was the biological father. And I think it still is so, but at that time we did the film, I think it was at 7 when a child turned 7 years old. It's only the father who has a right to the child. The mother loses every possible right to do things with the child, or if he doesn't want her to be there, he can kick her out. So they wanted to escape before this child turned 7, and he was 5, and he didn't know that this guy they were traveling with, he was calling him uncle. They
Oh.
go to Istanbul as a like a holiday trip, and suddenly they have to tell him, "Hey, this guy is not your uncle; it's your father, and the trip is not a holiday; it's a permanent. We're gonna stay here. We're not gonna come back to your grandmother and grandfather." So it was a very difficult situation for this young kid. And then from there on, my point of view was to come in. And we filmed all of this from the day they came out of Iran and
Mm-hmm.
established themselves in Turkey. And we wanted to tell a story about the refugees and how these kind of our systems, basically, that is UNHCR, it's a UN organization organizing refugees, how they can apply for asylum in different countries, and how we can get these people. A lot of these people at that time also, there's also a big refugee wave coming from Syria at this time, and they were all going to Turkey, and that place was very difficult to get out into other countries of the world, because a lot of the countries, Western countries, they don't want to take these quota refugees that we actually used to take, but now we have a lot of more right-wing governments in European countries, and at that time we shot the film. Trump was elected for the first time in America, and he also closed the borders, as we can see again now. So it's a very hostile environment for refugees seeking a place to stay safely. And this family, unfortunately, are very good at adapting to the Turkish situation. They speak a language that is close to the Turkish. So I say unfortunately, because they have not been able to be repatriated to another country. So they're still in Turkey, and they have an all right life, but they have no basic rights. They have no passports, and they have no country that protects them. So they're still in like kind of a limbo.
This is my last day at home. I'm not sure tomorrow I will be dead or alive.
Her şeyin elden verdiği bir gecenin içinde. Oyuncağın, odasının, her şeyin. Ve bir adam girmiş hayatına. Emce, dünkü emce, şimdi diyordu babanam ben senin.
چرا نمی‌ریم؟ نه باید بمونیم. جفتمون به خاطر مانی باید بمونیم.
استخبارات گیلبرگ.
خوردی! آشغالا!
آروم باش. اینجوری میخوای مراقب ما باشی؟
من onu hiç zaman kendime anlatamam. Anlatabilmeyeceğim.
دوست ممنوعه ما قانونیش کرد.
Did the original husband, the father, the non-father of the child, how did he let this happen? Like, how did they, get this trip and he was out of the loop?
Yeah, because the problem for the mother of this family is that she was actually trying to make her marriage work, but this guy, she says, I haven't spoken to him, but that was the story, that he was a drug addict and he wasn't very interested in the family life, and he wasn't partaking much in what was happening at home. And she couldn't really persuade him to have a family life with her. So he had other problems that took his mind away, and in the shadow of that, this affair could grow, and he didn't care much about. He thought the child was his, but he didn't care much about it.
Interesting.
And they escaped without telling him that they would go. So he was just one day waking up to an empty house.
Wow. I mean, even for a drug addict, that's got to be pretty life-altering. So do they see any path forward?
No, it's very difficult for them. I mean, they have established themselves because they are clever. The kid goes to school. He's a grown-up almost now. His birthday was some weeks ago. and they are teachers. They work as teachers in the outskirts of Istanbul, and they have actually built a very good life for themselves, but they are so fed up with this unstable situation.
Sure.
They can't travel. We wanted to take them to the premiere in Canada, and they were not allowed in because they don't have passports, visa. They were afraid. I mean, Canada is a heaven for refugees. People were afraid that they would just stay there and not go back to Turkey, and for that reason, they're very limited in the lifestyle that they can have.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of stories about people, from Gaza and Jordan and stuff like that, and they go to Kuwait and Qatar and everything. They're sort of in the same situation. They can work, they can get paid, but they don't get a citizenship. They don't get a passport, and you're just sort of, you've become a cog in the system, and they just chew you up and spit you out.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's a lot to ask from the UNHCR to be able to take care of every destiny in the world. But I mean, it is not the UNHCR alone. It's also the governments from our countries that they don't take the amount of refugees that they used to take. And I mean, the point in this film was for me to try and give like a human face to one of these many numbers that are stuck in these kind of refugee systems, to make us relate emotionally to this family and their little story that is part of a bigger story. And I think it's very easy for us to kind of distance ourselves and detach ourselves from these refugees. But as soon as we get to know them, they are just as their destinies. They have destinies. They have personalities. They are as different from each other as people who are not refugees. Some are educated. Some are financially well off. Some are not. And I think we're going to see more of this in the coming years with the climate changes that are pressing more and more people out of the countries that they used to stay in. Also people who used to be well off or have a choice in their life, and now they don't. And the case of this family is a case like that. I mean, Iran is a problematic country, but it's also a pretty well-organized country, and you can actually live upper middle class life. You can study, you can be educated in a way that you can speak English, in a way where you can actually translate your inner thoughts to an international audience. And I think that's the strength of this film that we did. It's a very emotionally strong film because you're very close to this small family that basically just wants to get a place on earth where they can build their life together because they could not. And I know there are so many more dramatic stories than this one in the refugee, among the refugee stories. But I think this one has a strong emotional appeal to many people.
I think what you said is about Iran is very true. I've never met an Iranian that wasn't extremely well educated. It's also the same people from Russia and Ukraine, like incredibly smart people, creative, innovative, whatever you think of the respective governments, that's a whole other issue. But they come out of that system learning how to think when they get the chance.
Definitely. And I think we need, as Westerners, we need to understand a bit. We are a bit arrogant sometimes. We think that the only civilized place on earth is America and Europe, and that's definitely not true, and less so.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. To everybody who's tuned in, thank you for tuning in to Documenting Reality, again, hosted by the Documentary Channel. Please like, subscribe, and share, and have yourselves a great week.